Okay, we're good.
Okay, thank you for doing that.
Yeah, no worries.
So, Mackenzie, are you the typer?
Yes, I am.
Okay. So however you all want to do it, it's fine with me. But our last group, we just kind of went in and we all brainstormed the same question, and we just moved question to question and put our ideas down. Then we went back and kind of put them all together to make sense, and then complete sentences. But I'm good with whatever.
I think that's probably what will work best.
Yeah, it seemed to be. And that way, anybody that's on this Google Doc, even though Mackenzie's typing,
you can edit me as we go.
Right. You can go back, you can add it, or you can go back and change, or, whatever. However you want to do it. That's the nice thing about Google Docs. We all can participate. So, do we have everybody?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so we want to start. So I printed the transcription of the video because so I could go back and review it. Just to be easier. And anybody can just speak up if you want. If you don't, So the first one is just, taking turns talking about the points you identified, both the overt reference and the more subtle ones. So I think probably a subtle one that everybody picked up was the communication, the lack of communication between the family.
Where are the bullet points? Oh.
Do you all agree with that?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, the lack of the open communication and being able to communicate exactly how each of them are feeling about the situation. And I think the other thing that I kind of got from it was that they didn't feel validated, the mom and dad, sister, brother, for the feelings that they had. That's kind of how I took it. They all were feeling all these different things, but no one agreed with each other. They all were kind of separate in how they thought, and they wouldn't say, oh, I see how, you could feel that way, when you come in and I'm upset and I don't know what to say, and I just get upset. I can see why you would think that we don't love you or want you here anymore. And I think that was part of it, is they all, the feelings and what they were going through, they wanted to have validation.
Yeah, in the book it talked about the clarifying ambiguity, so I think that kind of goes along with it. It says
exactly.
that often family members hold quite different assumptions and beliefs. And so, the boy, he was like, man, my family hates me, I'm just going to leave, and hoping that they would kind of catch the drift that he was hurt by their actions. And then the parents are kind of like, dude, like, we're so worried about you, that's why we're getting mad. But, because of that lack of communication there.
Yeah, that's kind of the...
understanding each other.
Yeah, the overall.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of all went down from there, and, the lack of communication and support, I think, between the mother and father, because the mom is being the mom and the dad is being the dad. And because they feel and look at things different, they tended to kind of clash. Mom's worried he's dead, and dad's like, oh, he's just a teenager. And I think that's typical when you're raising teenagers.
That's what I wrote down, too, was like the clarifying how do you pronounce it? Ambiguous?
Yeah, ambiguous.
Yeah. And I just wrote down, like, the dad believes Jimmy is not being a problem, and Jimmy believes he should be able to do what he wants because he doesn't see a problem. So it shows that they have different beliefs there.
Yeah, exactly. And that is, you know, now Jimmy's belief is he's 18, he should be able to do what he wants, and Mom is thinking, well, as long as you live under our roof, you need to respect us and, you know, follow the rules. So that's, you know, I think that is maybe the communication is kind of the underlying thing, or like you say, clarifying.
Sorry, I was muted.
No, you're fine.
I also think that there's also a pileup of stressors with the mom, and so that's another reason why she's having such a hard time expressing herself. You know, she's thinking about him not coming home on time and all the, you know, what could happen to him, all the different outcomes. She doesn't know his friends, so that's another anxious, you know, stressor. He doesn't have direction in his life. So she's stressed and nervous that he's, you know, she loves him. She wants him to be successful, and she wants him to do well in life. And where he's not doing anything right now, like that really stresses her out and worries her. I think there was one other one. Oh, and then she also wants him to be happy. Of course, you want your kids to be happy, and then to see him just being kind of so, just kind of moody and just kind of down, like that's probably hard on her too. So I think there's so many different stressors. And then I think maybe too, now thinking about it, that the husband might play into it a little bit because he's not as worried as she is. And so that might kind of stress her out a little bit too, being like, why aren't you supporting this? Like, this is a big deal. Like, we need to get to the bottom of this. And he's like, no, it's fine. So who knows? And then maybe also the daughter could add to that stressor too by, you know, she's tattling on him, and maybe she...
Sorry, it just kicked me out. That was really weird.
No worries.
Oh, no, you're fine. And I think that that's true. The sister, you know, and she's tattling, or however you want to call it, from her perspective.
She might exaggerate it a little bit, being a teenager.
Exactly.
You know, so I think, so there's so many different stressors that are just piling up on this mom that she's just getting so overwhelmed.
Right. And I think the fact that Dad is not home a lot and works, and so Mom probably has the brunt of the responsibility for raising the kids and making sure, you know, their needs are being met, that's probably a lot. And without the dad being home, he doesn't really see maybe as much because he's not there.
I thought it was interesting that Jimmy brought that up. He said, he's like, Dad's never home, so what's the difference if I'm not? Like,
right.
I thought that was an interesting point, that he thought, well, if Dad's not doing it, why should I be around?
Exactly. And, you know, I think that comes with teenagers, you know, they feel like the entitled, or, you know, they forget that they're the child and they have a parent. They kind of look at that they're on the same level. You know, so if Dad's not here, why should I have to be here?
Mm-hmm.
So I think, you know, and I think that the move and, you know, the fact that, like you said, that he doesn't have any direction is a big stressor, because without having any direction or a plan, and now he's hanging out with these kind of kids, you know, he doesn't know what he wants to do. So there's no telling. If he had direction, she may not have, you know, be as worried.
I think Brother Williams did a good job with facilitating everything. I had him as a professor when I was on campus, and he was so neat.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah.
That's cool.
But I loved how he was like so affirming with the mom, you know, instead of being like, you're just such a worrywart, or just kind of, I don't know how to explain it. Anyways, but I think he just did really good facilitating. He's like, no, it's okay to be worried, like that's normal.
Right.
And then he kind of explained it to the rest of the family as being a mama bear. And when things happen, like they don't want anything to happen to their children. And I think that kind of helped them to see, like, oh, okay, well, Mom really does love us. She's just trying to look out for us. But so I think that was really good to kind of help affirm everybody.
And I think sometimes it's easier to have that third party say that, because they hear it so much from us. I mean, I have older kids. I have a 22-year-old, so I feel like, oh my gosh, I'm reading my life right there. You know, so sometimes you just talk so much that it's good to have a third party, you know, agree and say, this is why your mom feels this way.
On page 158, it talks about praising efforts, and that's exactly what he was doing there, like saying, it's okay that you're worried. I mean, because everybody else is seeing like she's blowing it out of proportion, and maybe at times she was being a scary mama bear, but he was praising those efforts of, yeah, you're doing what you're supposed to, like your mom. And like you said, I love that he talked about the mama bear. That totally I'm sure that made the whole family realize, like, yeah, moms will do anything for their children.
And it's true. That's why we're here. That's why we are moms. One thing I did pick up at the very beginning of the session, when they were all kind of talking about why they're there, is the cohesion or whatever with the family changing, now that Jimmy is getting older and he's changing and he's not willing to be with the family as much, to go do the kind of things that they want. And, the daughter, Maddie, she'll go with mom and dad and do things, but Jimmy doesn't really want to. So there's kind of that, the cohesion of the family is changing, the dynamic as he's getting older. They're not camping like they used to and things like that. And I think that that is a very difficult, being a mom that has older kids, that's a huge change for a mom, to all of a sudden their child's all the time want to go to the movies and dinner and this and that with you, and then all of a sudden they put their friends above everything. So they're not sharing the same closeness that they did, maybe.
I think it's the family systems theory. I could be totally off, but it talks about how the different stages of families go through. Like you have, and so that they're kind of in that launching stage with the older children, and their son. Right. And so that dynamic of or that adjustment period, that transition into, what do we do with him? Like, how do we handle this situation where he is old, he has graduated, he's an adult. How do we handle this situation? So I think one of the things that they need to work on is learning how to transition and have that open communication with all family members. And
right, because that is a big deal when your kids start to.
Yeah, that's hard on the moms and it's hard on the kids, because the kids want that.
It is, because
that independence, and the parents are still like, you're so little, you're not ready for the world yet.
That's the thing. You still look at them as being, little, and you want to take care of them and save them, and they're looking as they want free. They want their independence. But that's the hardest thing, I think, as a parent, is to allow that, because you're like, I think you can make choices, this up.
One thing the therapist did really well was helping each other see their perspectives and help them understand their feelings, so that they could understand where the other was coming from. Because the parents were worried, but the son was also feeling hurt, like he wasn't liked or wanted anymore. And so he really helped them clarify, no, this isn't what we're trying to say. This is what we're feeling, but it may not be the same as what you're feeling. So they really helped them talk through their actual emotions and feelings, so that they could actually understand where the other was coming from.
Yeah, and I think that is, kind of developing the systematic perspective, everyone's different perspective of the situation.
Do you think that falls under the reframing and the relabeling? Brother Williams was able to reframe the situation and really feel those emotions as, she's not angry at you, she's just really worried at you. And, obviously she's kind of angry that he's not doing stuff, but at the same time, he was just relabeling and kind of reframing that situation.
Yeah, and I think that as your kids become teenagers and they get older, I think the family, you have your, as a mom and a dad, your role changes, as and I think that, that's true, just reframing the whole thing.
One thing.
Oh, sorry, go.
Oh, sorry. I was just looking at the principle of collaboration and teamwork that he did at the end. And pretty much what he was doing is like pairing them off to go on like the dad-son dates, the husband and wife dates, and that's so they can get together and like actually talk about these issues in a calm way. And be a team, especially for the husband and wife, because he saw things differently and they need to be on the same page for it to even work and to prevent arguments.
Right. I think that's true, because men think their way, women think their,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right, because that's a big part. They need to see their parents unified on the situation.
Yeah, it's confusing when one parent say, like, when Jimmy's hearing like, well, my dad's not worrying, he's automatically going to think, well, mom's the bad guy, she's after me,
Right.
And they need to be on the same page so he's not divided like that.
Right. And I think mom's home more, and so she is the one that, is the disciplinarian, has more of the responsibility.
Another thing I noticed in the book, it talked about how resilience-based intervention taps into a couple different domains of family functioning. And so I think Brother Williams was really good at tapping into that. And the first one talked about the meaning and mastery of the crisis. And so through the whole thing, they were able to find meaning. And so the problem wasn't just Jimmy coming home late. Like, he was able to find that, what the meaning was. And so I think that was really good that they were able to. And then and then they can become resilient, once they figure out what the underlying problem is and how they can fix it.
Yeah, that's true. And that's gaining that sense of,
Madison, what did you say at the beginning? What was it called? The whole principle? Sorry. My daughter was slouching out of her chair.
Resilience-based intervention taps into 3 domains of family functioning.
Resilient-based interaction, is what you said?
Yeah.
Was there anything else to like resilient-based interaction?
It also has. I am still on. Okay. Reorganization of the family's structural patterns, the development of effective communication and problem-solving strategies, and we talked about that, the communication and then the problem-solving, where he's like, "Hey, can you guys sit home and figure out a way that you can do that?" So it's just those 3 things.
Okay.
I'll get you a page number just a second.
Okay.
It's page 139, the very top.
Okay, perfect.
I think another part of the communication is that they didn't have the coping skills or the skills to know how to handle the situation. And I think that's a huge part is, if you don't know how to handle a situation, a lot of times you end up yelling or saying things you're not supposed to say because you don't have something to fall back on. You don't know how to take care of it. So I don't know if that's, like leadership. They're kind of just in uncharted waters of how he's changing and really how to deal with it.
I think the topic in the chapter that discussed that a lot was the reframing and relabeling. How they're reframing the family structure. Their son's getting older. They're going to have to let go of some of that control. But at the same time, they were relabeling like the family's roles and how the sister shouldn't be the mom, but yet she cares so much for her brother that she doesn't want to see him get into trouble. And there was that big misunderstanding. So they had to like reframe their whole perspective in order to see each other's opinions and just feelings and emotions so that they could reorganize that structure and see each other's perspectives so that they could let go of some of that control with their son and have the sister actually go out and get a soda with her brother and act like best friends. Then the parents still going out on dates, just like what he was trying to get them to in the end, is just rebuild those relationships and try to let go of some of that control and see each other's perspectives.
Right. I think he was trying to give him like a positive outlook, on the future. Instill hope.
Yeah.
Seeing it as something that they can handle.
When looking at, sorry, this is kind of off topic, but on number 3, question number 3, says talk about your observations. Was anybody surprised at the finding of? How's that different from the first one that we're doing right now?
Let's see.
Like observations from the movie, like we've been doing?
Yeah,
or?
maybe it's observations of what we saw happening between, in the session, maybe. What we all kind of observed and what we were, if we saw anything we were surprised about. Do you think that's what it is?
It might be. All these the first 3 questions are pretty similar because this one is like note the trends and findings. So I don't. I don't know what to put for that.
I mean, in my opinion, or from my standpoint, having older kids, I didn't find anything surprising.
No, it seemed like I don't have older kids obviously, but it seemed like a typical situation that a lot of families go through.
Yes, I would bet almost every family goes through it.
My family's going through this exact same situation right now with my brother. I'm not home now, but my brother's so distant and doesn't want to hang out with the family, and so I was like, oh my gosh, my family needs to watch this. Maybe it'll help them. But
how old's your brother?
He's 24.
Yeah, see, my son is 22, and then I have a 14-year-old, and so he's going through the adolescent stage. Ugh. So
That's
it's the same kind of thing.
I was a horrible adolescent. I feel bad for my parents. It wasn't very nice.
It is. That's when you wish you had a book, because you really don't know what to do when you find yourself in a situation like this, and every family goes through it. And it is a difficult situation. Because he wants to be independent, but yet he wants to be a child at the same time. Mm-hmm. He wants to be taken care of and live there and have everything in the cushy life. But yet he wants to be able to have his freedom. And that's a big transition time. Mm-hmm. Because they don't understand it, and then they start thinking, you don't love me, you don't want me here, but you're trying to help them grow up and become independent.
And I think that's where the communication comes in. It's kind of like what we observed in this video, is that that communication isn't being broadcast enough. This is why I'm hounding you, is because I love you. I want you to understand what's going on, and this is my point of view. And then they kind of are okay, Well, teenagers, they're still going to fight no matter what, but they'll listen. But
yeah. And I think when you communicate with your teenager, when the mom communicates with Jimmy when he comes in late, she gets mad, and he just shuts down because he doesn't want to hear it. And that's a typical teenager.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think that the one thing I do notice is if you look at what mom has to say, it's kind of lengthy and kind of in detail. And what dad has to say is in 2 or 3 words, and it is what it is. There's no emotion, it's just what it is. And I think it's hard for moms to take the emotion out of it and just communicate actual feelings, or about the situation.
Well, Brother Williams talked about that. He said, girls, you guys are being girls, and boys, you're being boys. Right. And he explained how the brain works and stuff. So that's really interesting. But so by doing that, he kind of normalized the family's distress. And then he talked about that in the book.
Yeah. And let's see. But I don't think anything was surprising.
No.
At least it wasn't to me. I didn't find anything. I didn't observe anything that was.
No, I think everybody acted in a way that most families would act.
Exactly. Yep. That's right. Let's see where. I mean, I guess just the observations that we made. Anyone was surprised?
Maybe in our summer we could just kind of combine that. Well, I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah,
do we have to have answers to each question? Probably. She probably.
Probably. I mean, I would just say, our observation is
All families go through it.
Yeah, it seems like a typical situation that a lot of families have to deal with. And most families, this is what happens. They're not the only ones going through this. It's easy to identify with it.
Was there anything in the video that, like, not necessarily surprised you, but that kind of, like, bugged you or that you liked? Like, for example, like, it drove me nuts how he was always cutting them off. Like, they couldn't get out all their feelings, and I was like, just let them talk. Then you can, like, reevaluate or whatever, but reaffirm their
No, I mean, I think one of my main observations was just the way that mom and dad, were, and their feelings and how they communicated with each other. Not that it surprised me, it's just kind of that is how it goes. And I think mom brings a lot of good things for the motherly side, and dad brings a lot of good practical. Because I know with my older son, if I would sit long enough and listen to what his dad had to say and kind of see his reasoning behind it, it made sense. And take the feeling and, the motherly stuff out. And just kind of try to understand, because being a boy and having a dad, they're different. The way that they react to things and the way that they grow up or, get their own identity, it's different than how girls do it. So.
I feel like I'm talking so much, but go for it, Emily, you first.
Oh, I was going to say that it's important for the parents to strengthen their relationship and that they're on the same page before they try to address problems with their son. Because they weren't even validating each other. They were both disagreeing, and the dad was like, you're overreacting, and they didn't agree on anything. And so they need to work on their relationship and, get on the same page on, formulate a plan. Then I think they can move forward with their son. But whereas the problem starts within their relationship, it's going to be hard for them to work with their son when they're struggling with each other, in the first place.
That's right. Yeah, I think you're right. They have to realize that both of them love their son equally and want the best for him. They just go about it and communicate it differently.
Going off of what Jennifer said earlier, just reminded me of an observation that I made about this video and about our readings, is kind of tying it into our gospel principles. Like, this resilience principle really teaches the families to be self-reliant, teaches them how to work as a family, really. Shoot, there's something I was going to say about Jennifer's, and I totally lost track. But anyways, I just thought it was interesting how they're teaching the families to actually heal instead of just a continuous treatment that they have to keep going through.
Right. Yeah, because he's just 18, and their daughters coming up. I mean, if they start working together and they understand these things, they're not going to be in a vicious cycle. If mom and dad can communicate, everybody can learn to communicate, or it's just going to be a vicious cycle. It will never change.
Something in the book that I liked, it mentioned how you need to realize that uncertainty is okay. And I thought that was really important for this family because they are uncertain for their son's future. They don't know what he's doing, and there is that uncertainty, but it's okay. Once they start formulating that plan, they still don't know what's going to happen, but now they know they're working with their son towards a better goal. And so, you know, it's always going to be uncertain in the beginning. You don't know what's going to happen. So that's when you need to talk to each other, that communication that you were saying, and then help, you know, work together and formulate a plan that will ensure a good future that you're going to be sure of later on.
Yeah, that kind of goes under the collaborative problem solving, you know, the proactive stance, you know, for the future challenges.
Should we move to the last question, or is there any other observations that we made from the movie that we want to add?
Maybe the other observation, which is a typical observation, is the sister tattling or watching because she's feeling that disconnect from her older brother and she feels like she's losing him, where they've kind of been a family and friends. And that could be why she's kind of mothering him, is because he's not around anymore.
Another observation I just remembered is I liked how the therapist would make them switch places. And at first I was like, what is he doing? But then I could see, like, when the dad was talking about the mom, he would like lean over and look at her, and it was kind of awkward. But like when they were sitting together, I think it just made them more unified, you know.
Yeah.
And then he made Jimmy sit next to his parents, which I don't know. I could see how that would be effective.
Yeah, that's a good one. It's a good observation.
So, did we start the meeting at 1? Because it said the last 15 minutes review. Oh, I guess we still have the last question, but then we review everything, look over the notes.
Right.
Yeah, we'll hurry and do number 4, and then we can.
Yeah, so let's do number 4.
Treatment professional. Okay. Let's see.
One other thing I observed before we move on, I just thought of this, how the therapist in the beginning, he really built a connection with them. You know, he asked them questions about their personal life and their likes, and, you know, by building that connection, that relationship with them, it got them talking more and allowed them to open up and share that personal information. So I think this is just a good thing to reflect on when thinking about the family, and how if they work on building their relationships and build on connecting with each other, then they're going to want to be more open and share that personal information with each other, but they really need to strengthen that relationship first.
Yep, that's true.
So let's do number 4.
Okay.
So I think we have a lot of observations now that we actually thought about it.
Yeah. So I'm just kind of looking over the keys to family resilience.
I think one of the things that professionals and paraprofessionals need to do is to be genuine. It talked about that in the article, that you're not going to get anywhere with the family, and they're not going to be able to open up and feel secure with you if you're not genuine and really try and show that you care about their situation.
Yeah, that's true. If they don't feel a connection or feel like you really care, they're probably not going to open up.
Another one would be, I don't know if it says in the text, but I just didn't off the top of my head, is like he would relate his family situations, pretty much showing like, okay, I'm a therapist, but my family goes through this exact same thing.
Right, that they're not alone. Yeah. It's kind of a typical, a lot of families deal with it.
I think another good one, it talked about getting the community involved, or having community resources. And so I think as a professional or a paraprofessional, you need to know those resources that are available in your community, so that when families do come to you, you can help them out.
Right.
And then you can also, like getting the schools involved and having a therapist in the school, or maybe volunteering once a week or something. Just trying to create that community unity.
Well, and I think just by the therapist, tell them, let's go on this date or that date and spend time together, getting to know each other, is a part of the resilience.
One thing that I found really interesting in this reading, it doesn't have to do with our question, but it talked about being compassionate overloaded. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's so true. Like, it's such a, at least for me, like, it's so hard to, like, be not to be compassionate, but to be that for all day long with families or with people that are being dumb, like,
right.
I have bad behavior. It's like, it'd be so hard to be patient and to be compassionate towards that, and to kind of, to help them out, and then to come home. And, all families go through the daily stresses, and it would be so hard to still continue to work on that being at home too.
Right. That's true. It would be hard to do that all day and then go home and be with your family.
Still be compassionate. So you're compassionate like 24/7. But I guess you're trying to be like the savior, right? That's a good way to.
That's true. You're exactly right. Yeah, because I'm sure some days are very hard.
One thing I think is important is that you help families realize that stress is normal. They're not the only ones that have been through this, just like we've talked about, and that no one is immune to stressful situations or unpleasant events, and that it's normal. It's we understand that you might be having a hard time going through this, and then it's that just realizing, okay, I'm not the only one. People have gone through this before. What can we do for our family to help work this out?
That's true.
I think going along with that too, it talks in the book about encouraging your clients. So you make it normal, like you normalize it, and then you encourage them to go after what they want. And it talked about talking about the future with them, and like goals, and finding the positive, and then help them, give them courage, give them that encouragement that they need to go after that.
Right. So that you have a very proactive attitude.
Yeah, so the therapist needs to be very proactive.
Right, that, this is where we can go. We can pick up, we can go from here. And just being extra positive about the future and, reassuring them.
Okay, sorry, I feel like I'm talking a ton.
No, you're good.
In the book on page 166, there's a quote from Waiter and Lawrence, and I loved it. It talked about how, as a therapist, you're helping, because your client is writing their own story. They're the hero in their own story, and you as a therapist are helping them to slay their dragons.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a really cool way of looking at that you're just helping them in their own stories and to be the heroes. So, and then they said that kind of helps with the compassion when you can view your clients like that.
Mm-hmm. That is true. Yeah, I'm kind of just looking through to see if we missed anything that we can. What about, their spiritual, for church or anything like that? To see if they have a connection with, a congregation that they could get, support from or.
I think that's really good. Mackenzie, your daughter's really cute, by the way.
Thank you. She's been a little fussy during that time. I had it on mute, but she was like talking to you guys in the camera. She's figuring out time finally. When she talks to her grandma, she just like is shouting at her.
That's so fun.
Yeah, but she was talking, and I'm like, oh, you're on mute, sorry.
Is there anything that we could put as far as their growth, their learning from this?
For number 4?
Yeah, I don't know if that will, that being aware that they are responsible, for their actions and things that they say, they can maybe grow out of this. I mean, take some experiences, so that they can grow personally. But I don't know if that fits there.
It could go part with that, how we talked about being like optimistic and looking towards the future.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you say, they come up with their goals and you're like, okay, well, who's really in charge? Because Brother Williams was like, I can't do anything for you. You guys are the masters of your own family. I can't make you guys change. And so you guys are really anyways, you guys are the ones in charge. And so maybe going along with setting goals and helping them realize that they're the ones that if they want to achieve those goals, they have to do it.
Right, that it's up to them to take responsibility.
Yeah.
And as they practice it, they're going to learn it, They practice. Because I know sometimes I've had to have something in my mind, so when my sons say something, I have it already prepared. So that I just don't say something I shouldn't say. I kind of have, I've learned now how to handle certain situations just out of experience.
Is there anything else, or should we go over our summary?
Yeah, I guess we can go over it. I was just kind of...
Feel free to, when you look at the bullet points, you can edit them yourself. You don't have to it might just be easier if you just put it in yourself and tell me, change this part. But yeah.
Let's see. So we can...
And if you have anything else to add that I didn't catch by any chance because I was distracted?
I don't think so. If we go up, let's see. I want to go back and look at the instructions, because do you think that it is just bullet points with that she's okay with that, with just, sentences?
It'd probably be easier for her to grade with bullet points.
Yeah, that's what I would think.
And I don't know how to put all this in a paragraph form so it all like blends
together. I know that would take forever.
Yeah, I don't think that
I'm not wordy and very good with words, so tell it how it is, right?
Right. Okay, so from the first, lack of communication. So, let's see. Okay, I mean, do y'all want to submit it like this, or do you want to go back and put them in sentences, or how are you all feeling about this?
What do you guys think? I'm good with whatever. I'm cool. This looks great.
Yeah, I mean, I'm good with.
Emily's still adding stuff still.
Pardon me?
Emily's still adding stuff, so we can wait for a little bit. But.
I think the handout looks good. You did a good job summarizing everything.
Yeah.
Is there anything else?
So.
Who was the one that was handing in the summary again?
That was what?
Who was handing in the summary?
Oh, that's me. I'll hand in the summary and the link.
Perfect.
So I can just pull it off from here, right?
Yeah, you might have to like copy and paste into the Word document to submit it, but yeah, that's what I would do.
Perfect. And then I'll wait for a little bit and see if you guys add anything.
Okay.
Like Jennifer's still typing and stuff, but if you guys have it all done within like an hour, I can turn it in.
Okay.
Does that work?
Yep, that'll be great. So maybe should we, at the top after you're done editing, do you want to like bold your name at the top or anything, or you just want to say an hour and then we're done, or?
Yeah. Good idea.
All right, that works for me.
Okay, so just bold your name when you guys are done, and then as soon as all the names are bolded, if within the hour, I'll submit everything.
That sounds great.
All right, thank you guys. It was fun meeting you guys.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right, have a good day.
Bye.